So hello, Bobby. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. Very excited to be at the AVALANCHE Summit in Barcelona. It's a lot more vibrant than what I thought it would be.
Cool. Yeah. So we are, getting straight into the interview. So please, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Bobby. I'm the co-founder and COO of CoinGecko. CoinGecko is the largest crypto data aggregator. So been running this for 8 years now, since 2014, and it's really exciting. I find crypto super fun, and this keeps me going every day.
Cool. As everybody, I think. Crypto is a very thriving economy, and yeah. So if nobody, but I don't think that. But if nobody knows CoinGecko, could you explain how it works?
Yeah, sure, happy to. So CoinGecko in a nutshell is kind of like a crypto data aggregator. It's a place where we list and rank and track crypto data information. So most people kind of come to CoinGecko to track crypto price, market cap, trading volume, where are those tokens traded, for example, what's the contract address, social media links, and so on. You can kind of think of it as like a Yahoo Finance, but purely focused on crypto. And at this point in time, we have roughly 14,000 coins listed on CoinGecko. And I guess the vision for CoinGecko is, if you can imagine like a future where anything that can be tokenized will be tokenized. So we will see a future where there will be millions of tokens. And how do you make sense of a world with a million token? And we want to be the infrastructure to help you make sense of this future where there will be so many tokens in the world.
Okay. So what are the main features of CoinGecko right now?
Yeah, so the main feature of CoinGecko is really a place for people to track price of crypto. So people, they have his favorite token. For example, a new coin gets launched, Ape coin, for example, the BAYC coin that was launched. People come to CoinGecko to check the price, where can they buy it, and then we could buy it on Binance, FTX, and many other exchanges. What's the contract address, and so on. So that's kind of what people use it. We have a mobile app that a lot of people use as well, and there is a portfolio feature where you can kind of whitelist the kind of your favorite coins. So there's so many coins, you're only interested in 100 coins, for example, you whitelist them. You can create specialized portfolios, for example, a DeFi tracker, and you list all your DeFi favorite coins, your stable coin, you track it, for example, and so on. And then you can have P&L in your portfolio as well, you have price alerts. So these are the kind of like the main features of CoinGecko.
Okay, so we might see a CoinGecko token one day?
We have no plans for that at this point in time, but you never say no, right? So who knows? But at this point in time, we have no plans for a token at this point in time.
Yeah, okay, because there is a CoinGecko candy, so yeah.
Yeah, the candy is kind of like you can think of it as a loyalty point.
Yeah.
So it's kind of our way of saying thank you to you for like using CoinGecko every day. And with these candies, you can sort of redeem free items on CoinGecko, like the swag pack, the DeFi book, the NFT book, how to NFT book that we write, get a lot of NFT drops as well, and a bunch of different discounts.
Okay. So what do you think about the ecosystem today, the crypto ecosystem globally?
So yeah, I'm pretty much an OG guy, right? I've been in the space since 2013, and I always like to compare the crypto ecosystem today versus where I used to see it back in 2013, 2014. What I can say is that things have gone mainstream. It's no longer weird to say that you're involved in crypto. People no longer give you the stare when you say you're in crypto. So it's definitely a lot bigger. Like the big boys are looking into it. The institutional players are looking to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, a bunch of tokens to hold on their portfolio, on their funds. Facebook is looking to add NFTs on Instagram, for example. Like the big tech players. Crypto's grown so big that you can no longer ignore it.
Yeah.
I guess we always knew that this was happening, but seeing it happening in real time is still very exciting and interesting. Yeah.
Okay. So, in your opinion, what is the best use case you've ever seen into, crypto? There's many, I think, but probably for you, what is the best use case?
Yeah, so I think there's several things, right? Like I think the base of crypto, like the basic, is the store of value. Like you can think about it like a way for you to permissionlessly hold your coins, your okay, how do I say it? You hold your, for example, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is kind of like, there's a fixed supply, so it's a good hedge against inflation. And because you hold your coins directly, like no one else can take it away from you. We've seen governments trying to freeze assets of citizens and all. Canada, Cyprus back then, and now Russia as well. With Bitcoin, nobody can take that away. So that's kind of Bitcoin. But I think what's more interesting is all the smart contract capabilities on like chains like Ethereum, Avalanche, and so on. So you can start building a decentralized version of the financial system where you remove the middleman and remove all the fees and make things more efficient. For example, I really like DeFi applications like lending and borrowing platforms where like protocols where you can sort of borrow money instantaneously without getting any approval from any human, and you just get it. Yeah, if you go to a bank, you want to have like draw loan on your house collateral, you got to fill up some application form. I don't know, take how many weeks. They do credit checks on all you guys, and you may or may not get the loan. Whereas in crypto, you just take your Bitcoin or take your E, for example, and then you just put into AVE and you draw a USD loan instantly with very attractive interest rates as well.
Okay, but don't you think that companies like Tether or Circle, I mean, they can freeze your assets, your stable coins? Don't you think it's a bad move for the crypto industry? Because at the end, you don't really own them.
Yeah. So I guess it's worth mentioning there are several different kinds of stablecoins. They are like the custodial stablecoins like Tether, USDC, and where they are subjected to pretty rigorous, going to be pretty rigorous banking regulations in the future as well, and they have ways to freeze your assets. So those are, I guess, closer in nature to like assets in the banks, I suppose, because every Tether and USDC is supposedly backed $1 with some assets in a bank that is controlled by Tether or USDC. But there's also algorithmic stablecoins, for example, UST and other kind of stablecoins that the issuers cannot freeze them, for example. And if you, for whatever reason, don't really want to get away from it, then just don't hold stablecoins. Just hold assets like Ethereum, for example, where nobody can freeze it. And obviously, don't store them in exchange, because if you store them in exchange, you're basically passing on the custody risk, the private key to someone else, and they can freeze them whenever they want to as well.
Okay. And so, how do you feel about the market? You have all the data in real time. So, how do you see it?
I wish I can really tell the market, because I have an oracle ball and I say, okay, the market's going up tomorrow, and I buy everything, guys. But the truth is, I don't know. I mean, we can sort of draw parallels from what has been happening in the crypto space for the past few years, and what we've been observing is that crypto generally work in a 4-year time frame, which kind of goes with the Bitcoin halving cycle. So every time, maybe a couple of years before Bitcoin halves, like the price kind of goes down and there's like not much excitement, and it kind of stays within a range. And then like towards the halving period, like the few months before that, and a few months or 1 year after the halving, like price typically moves up pretty aggressively. Some people like to call it follows the stock to flow model, but regardless of which way you want to look at it, like that's kind of the observation for the past 2 cycles, so like the past 8 years or so. Whether or not that follows through this current cycle, it's anyone's guess. But if we think that's going to repeat again, we've had a pretty bullish 2020 and 2021. And if anything, I would have to fathom a guess, maybe we've reached a stage where there will be a correction or something, or maybe at least the price won't go, will probably stay within range. But who knows, right? I mean, things have changed very significantly back then from today. Bitcoin and crypto used to be not correlated with the traditional markets, the macro, the stock market, for example. But with the involvement of all the institutional players these days, crypto is actually very correlated with the traditional market. And I would say that a lot of the movement for Bitcoin is heavily influenced by movement in the stock market, and that the movement in the stock market is highly influenced by the actions of the Federal Reserve, whether they increase interest rate or they decide to print more money, for example. So these days, we should see what the Federal Reserve, what actions they take, and that will impact the stock market. And that usually Bitcoin and usually has a higher beta compared to the tech stocks on Nasdaq, for example, and altcoin usually have a higher beta compared to Bitcoin, so higher volatility. So that's kind of the trend that we are seeing, and I think that plays a bigger role these days compared to the Bitcoin halving cycle.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my take. So we may not see the crap movement if the Federal Reserve keeps printing money like crazy again.
Okay, that's really interesting. So this is my last question. How do you interact with blockchain protocols and new projects? I mean, there's tons of people that are approaching you, and how do you deal with them?
What do you mean? How do I deal? Like, how do I?
I mean, is there any selection at the entrance? Because you might not aggregate all the tokens.
Okay, on CoinGecko, for example.
Yes, on
Gotcha,
CoinGecko.
gotcha. So for CoinGecko, we have pretty defined listing criteria, I suppose. There are kind of two main things, mainly like, do you want to get listed as a token, or are you an exchange and you want to get listed as a exchange, or centralized or decentralized exchanges, for example. So for tokens, it's pretty straightforward. Like, you got to be listed on an exchange that we track, because if we don't track the exchange, then there's no way we can get the price and volume information. And that's kind of one of the checklists. And then we look at a bunch of different criteria as well. Volume, TVL, for example, just to among some of the other criteria. But we don't really disclose them, because we found that anything that once this criteria is open, it gets gamified pretty instantly. So we kind of have a team of people checking. So if you are interested, you have a token listed. So we have a submission form, CoinGecko.com/request. We have a form, and then our team will check, and if it meets the criteria, it gets listed. The exchange listing criteria is roughly similar as well. So we kind of go through the exchange listing criteria. You fill up your information, the API and all, and then we will check, and then we will list them. I think one of the interesting things is CoinGecko is taking on a more curated approach. So we kind of check every single thing manually. There's a human involved in the process. But coming back to the vision that I spoke to you earlier about how in the future there'll be millions of tokens and anything that can be tokenized will be tokenized, we realize that scaling the human component is going to be very difficult. Yeah. So what we've done is we've created a new product called GeckoTerminal.com, which basically tracks on-chain data, and we read data from almost all the EVM compatible chains like Ethereum, Avalanche, Polygon, and so on. So we have 30, and also non-EVM chain like Terra, for example, and we're looking at some other things. So we have 34 different blockchains, and we are plugged into the DEXs, the AMMs that are trading there. So for example, Uniswap V2, Uniswap V3, Polygon, SushiSwap, all the other chains. And what we do is we basically track every single token and trade that is happening on this chain. So now, if you look at Gecko Terminal, there's over 600 tokens listed on Gecko Terminal. Okay. And there's a lot more tokens that are, obviously a lot of them are scam tokens, spam tokens. For example, the volumes can be really low, like $100, $500 a day, for example, but it's all on Gecko Terminal, and all this data information is available. We can see every buy and sell order. So that's kind of like where we are kind of approaching things as well. And in big tokens, interesting tokens that we see traction on Gecko Terminal, we get them added on CoinGecko as well.
Okay. Do you have a favorite meme coin?
Meme coin. I think Dogecoin is pretty interesting, right? So I find it really interesting every time Elon Musk talks about Dogecoin, and seeing how like Dogecoin went from like nothing and going on to where it is today is pretty fun. I think it's just trolling, right? Yeah. Yeah. So definitely. I find it interesting. I used to be pretty. So CoinGecko got its start in the Dogecoin community back in 2014. Okay. When we started, we were thinking hard, how do we get CoinGecko known to the crypto community? And one of the communities that we found really interesting was Dogecoin. Yeah. And it's not common these days, but Dogecoin back in 2014, they built a reputation for tipping. So if you go to the Dogecoin subreddit, everyone had this Dogecoin tip bot and tipping people Doge just for the fun of it. So we were doing that a lot, and that was kind of how CoinGecko got its first kickstart to got its name out in the crypto space. Okay. So Dogecoin's got a special place in my heart, I suppose, if you may. Okay. It's finished? Yes. Okay, stop recording. You need more? No, you can take it. Okay, thank you very much. Muchas gracias.